Our guest this evening is Mr. Daniel Calleja, who is the Director General for Environment in the European Commission. Welcome to India, Mr. Calleja.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Could you tell us something about the priorities of European environment policy?
Well, European environment policy is about sustainable development. It is about improving the quality of the life of citizens. It is about efficient management of natural resources. It's about sustainability. It's about preserving the biodiversity. We have the resources on the planet which are not unlimited and which are finite. So we have to use them rationally. But it is also about green growth and jobs. It's about the circular economy, and it is about developing, at the end of the day, a better planet to live in for us and for the future generations.
Is there an external dimension to your policy?
Extremely important. The EU has developed over the past years a very rich set of rules. The environment is global. It does not end up in the frontiers of the EU. And this is why the EU is such an active player. We have community competence, and we want also to work with the international community so that sustainable development and protecting the planet are not just European goals, although Europe assumes the responsibility linked to the leadership in these negotiations. But when you are discussing biodiversity, sustainable development goals, protected species, work in bilateral framework with India in water, in circular economy, it is very in chemicals, it's very important, the international dimension.
So you came to India this time to attend the Indo-European Water Forum. What are your impressions of this event?
Well, it's the first time we are launching this cooperation with India. Water is something essential. It is a prerequisite for life. Without water, you do not have environment. Without water, you do not have species. Without water, you do not have ecosystems. Without water, you don't have life. So to launch this strategic cooperation, to discuss policy issues, to associate academics, to associate business, to have the possibility to see if we can also support important projects like the cleaning of Ganga, which is a priority for India. I think it has been a very, very exciting, a very interesting and a very rich meeting, which will pave the way for our future cooperation with India in this matter.
The general feeling is that, India's situation is quite different from Europe's in the water sector. India faces, of course, problems of quality, but also problems of scarcity of water, which Europe probably does not face. Is this a misconception?
In some ways, yes, because what we have discovered during this 2 days discussion is that there is a lot of similarities also between the situation of India and the situation of the European Union. In the European Union, we have succeeded in getting 28 countries working together under a European framework. 15 years ago, the Water Framework Directive was developed. It was a great achievement because it allowed for binding rules at European level to be implemented at national level. In India, the situation is similar. I think there are a similar number of states, 28, 29. You have an important challenge in ensuring the water policy. We have discovered that the powers of central government are not as important as in the EU, so there are lessons to be learned. And regarding quality and quantity, it is true that the quality of water has improved significantly in Europe over the past years, thanks to the coordinated action under the EU framework. But it would be a mistake to say that in Europe we don't have problems of quantity. You have also the southern countries of Europe, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Malta, Italy, where you have also problems of scarcity. And we have learned in the forum what kind of measures some of these countries are putting in place to deal with these issues. So there again, there have been valuable experiences, best practices, which we can put in place in a framework of mutual respect and cooperation.
We've heard a lot about the Water Framework Directive, and we've heard a lot about the challenges that India faces in making laws and implementing them. Can you share some insights about how the Water Framework Directive was actually implemented?
Well, the Water Framework Directive, probably its most important feature is that it has shown that it is possible to work by pooling the resources of the countries with common principles and common guidelines at EU level to ensure that the quality of water improves throughout the EU. It is a framework directive which leaves to the national authorities the task of achieving the objectives. But once more, in Europe, like in India, rivers go through different boundaries.
That's right.
Rivers are transnational. They are not confined, they are not limited to the frontiers of member states. So the success of the Water Framework Directive is establishing this governance whereby you have a clear distribution of roles and responsibilities, principles, goals, objectives established at European level, implementation done at national level.
And would you say that this is a model that India could look at?
Well, India was very interested, and in the contacts we have had with the authorities, in learning more about the European approach. India is reforming its legislation. I think the idea of having this European approach or this central approach together with efforts done at national level, at state level in implementation, together with best practices, with enforcement, is a very interesting concept, because what we have discovered during the discussions is that the central authorities do not have binding powers as we have in Europe. So this could be a model that could be used for the future. Of course, there are sensitive constitutional issues that have to be dealt with, and provided that these solutions are found from the viewpoint of the Constitution, from the viewpoint of the national system, the European experience could be a very useful example to follow. We are ready, in any case, to share our experience, and if it can be of use for India, we would be grateful, we would be happy to cooperate.
To take you a step further on this point, what happens when there is a dispute between two neighboring states over water?
Well, we have different situations. You have the situation under EU law, where the European Union has the right to enforce European legislation. We are the guardian of the treaties, so we have extensive powers to control and to ensure that community law is applied, including by reference to the European Court of Justice, which has very important powers to sanction and to enforce and even to impose penalties on countries who do not comply. But then we have some intergovernmental international experiences like the Danube or the Rhine Convention, where member states have agreed between themselves in an international framework on the different mechanisms. And these conventions have also specific ways of enforcement in a more international framework, and they are also very useful. During these 2 days, we had the opportunity to learn more from the functioning of these conventions and to discuss implementing measures that could be of use for India.
You mentioned in your closing remarks today that possibly you have reached some agreement with the government of India on working together for the Clean Ganga project. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, what we discussed is that this should not be a one-off forum, that there should be continuity, because the strategic issues dealing with water are so important for India and for Europe that we see a lot of interest in pursuing the cooperation. Cooperation which should go beyond the forum, which should establish a policy dialogue, a specific water dialogue in this area, with policy discussions, regulatory exchanges, also business involvement, and also technical cooperation. In this framework, a flagship initiative like the cleaning of the Ganga could be a symbolic element, but also a very useful and very concrete way of working together. The ambassador, EU ambassador, was rightly saying today that we have to be pragmatic, we have to be concrete. This is not about general cooperations, this is passing from words to action. and identifying how India and the EU can work together in concrete projects. And the Ganga could be a very interesting and a very important project where we could join forces.
Do you think research and innovation have a role to play in tackling problems of environment in the water sector?
It is very important. If there is one thing that I have learned in my job, and I have been for 2 months in the job, is the importance of innovation, of research and development, of eco-innovation for the green economy, for green growth, identifying technology, working with the business community, because innovative solutions can sometimes deliver the best results. And when you are dealing with such challenging issues like quality of water, like issues of public health, innovation can play a very important role.
I believe that your colleague has come to some sort of agreement with his counterparts in the Science and Technology Ministry about an agreement. So I think we're in for quite an exciting time with two agreements in the same sector covering different aspects. And would you be following this up in the next 2 or 3 months?
Yes, I think what is important to note is that my colleague, the Director General of Research and Development, has developed a program whereby Indian scientists, Indian industry can participate under Horizon 2020, the biggest innovation program in the world, 80 billion euros. What we are doing in the water dialogue is having a specific dialogue on improving the quality of the resources and working with the Indian authorities in the specific water area. And in this area, innovation is just one of the elements. Regulatory, policy dialogue, and technical cooperation will remain the pillars.
Mr. Calleja, thank you so much for talking to us, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your trip.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.